At precisely 5:42 a.m., near the Nezgol River crossing, a heavy stillness hung over the Russian rear lines. Suddenly, without warning, dozens of Ukrainian FPV drones launched, skimming just a few feet above the water, while rocket artillery and armored vehicles advanced in perfect synchronicity, converging on the bridge from multiple directions. This was no ordinary skirmish. It was a precise, carefully planned strike against Russia's vital supply artery, threatening to choke off fuel convoys bound for Kharkiv. Within seconds, the calm shattered into utter chaos, a brutal lesson in modern warfare. The stillness broke in an instant, as the first wave of FPV drones surged across the river, flying just 6 feet above the surface. Their cameras relayed every detail of the Russian defenses. Some carried small charges, while others flew unarmed, designed purely as eyes in the sky. Their mission was not destruction, but revelation. On the muddy riverbank, ground robots no bigger than a backpack crawled through the reeds, mapping firing points and feeding coordinates back to Ukrainian command. Every machine gun nest, every stretch of barbed wire, every shadow of a bunker began to appear in real time on the operator's monitors. The Russians reacted swiftly. A burst of tracer fire from a PKM machine gun stitched the air, cutting down one of the drones. Overhead, anti-drone nets were triggered, dangling like steel webs across the bridge approach. Yet, Ukraine had planned for this. One decoy drone deliberately surged forward, buzzing loud at full throttle, drawing the Russian gunner's eyes. The PKM rattled again, chewing through the bait as sparks lit the dawn. Behind that sacrifice, the true swarm kept advancing, slipping beneath the arcs of fire. Their low-resolution feeds still revealed the hidden wiring of the minefield and the exact placement of TM-62 charges under the bridge deck. Within seconds, Ukrainian commanders saw it, the gap in Russia's defense. The opening phase was complete, and the battlefield was ready for the next strike. The moment Russian PKM gunners emptied their belts into the decoy drone, Ukrainian command seized the opportunity on the monitors. The swarm still pressed forward, transmitting every weak point in the defenses. Within seconds, the order came down. "Light it up!" From 12 miles to the west, a high-pitched HIMARS battery roared to life. In quick succession, 4 guided rockets streaked into the sky, climbing fast before diving with lethal precision. Their trajectories arced over the tree line, each warhead zeroing in on dug-in air defense positions. The first impact slammed into a Zu-23 emplacement, scattering shrapnel across the bridge approach. The second obliterated a short-range missile launcher concealed under camo netting. The third and fourth tore open bunkers anchoring the north bank, silencing machine gun nests that had just cut down drones minutes earlier. But Ukraine didn't stop there. High overhead, a pair of Su-27 fighters raced in low, contrails trailing faintly in the dawn haze. From beneath their wings, Kh-31P anti-radar missiles screamed toward their targets at supersonic speed. Russian electronic warfare crews panicked, flicking their radars on and off to avoid lock-on. Each switch weakened their jamming blanket, leaving cracks in the electronic wall meant to shield the bridge. That's when the third punch landed. Out of the haze, a kamikaze UAV the size of a small car dove toward a Russian jammer truck, the notorious RB-341 VT Lear 3, hidden 200 yards inside a patch of forest. The drone's nose camera fixed on its target, and a heartbeat later, the blast ripped through the tree line, flipping the vehicle onto its side and killing its signal in an instant. In less than 5 minutes, Russia's carefully layered defenses unraveled. Machine guns were silenced, radars blinded, and their prized jamming asset reduced to smoking wreckage. The bridge was still standing, but its shield was gone. Ukraine had cleared the skies and opened the way for the next phase of the assault. Smoke from the shattered jammer truck still hung over the tree line when the next wave rolled in. With Russian air defenses blinded and their electronic shield ripped apart, Ukrainian armor surged forward. From the cover of a low ridge, T-84 main battle tanks gunned their engines and charged across the open ground. Dust plumes rose in their wake as BTR-4 infantry carriers followed close behind, dropping squads of soldiers armed with rifles, grenade launchers, and satchel charges. The thunder of their advance shook the earth, echoing off the Nezgol River valley. But Ukraine's assault wasn't just heavy steel. Alongside the armor, motorbike-mounted infantry darted across fields at nearly 45 miles per hour, weaving between craters. Their mission was clear: reach the flanks, lay down anti-tank mines, and choke off any Russian counterattack before it could form. Each rider carried demolition packs strapped to their backs.
Today we're digging into a really remarkable military operation. Picture this. It's just before dawn, near the Nezgol River crossing. The time is 5:42 a.m. There's this heavy stillness over what looked like, well, quiet Russian rear lines. But that quiet, it was about to shatter. We're talking about an incredibly planned Ukrainian precision strike. It hit a vital Russian supply artery, basically aiming to choke off fuel convoys heading towards Guerre. This wasn't just a skirmish, it was a meticulously choreographed ambush.
It really was, and I think what's striking for you listening is the sheer audacity of it and the strategic thinking behind it. This wasn't just about, blowing up a bridge. It was recognizing this specific bridge as the absolute choke point for their whole supply network there. Think of it less as a target, more like a crucial artery. If you sever it, you potentially cripple a huge part of their operations. So the plan we're about to get into, it wasn't spontaneous. It was complex, multi-layered, designed for what you called a strategic amputation.
A strategic amputation, yeah, that really captures it. So the big question we're diving into is how? How did Ukraine turn this ordinary crossing into such an intricate trap? What kind of tech, what sort of deceptions did they use? And I guess, what does this tell us about modern warfare? About, ingenuity on the battlefield today? Okay, let's unpack this. So, the first moments, it sounds almost like something from a spy movie, doesn't it? Without any warning, dozens of Ukrainian FPV drones, these are the first-person view ones, right? Super agile, flown like a video game. They just skimmed, like 6 feet above the Nezgol River. Cameras feeding everything back, and then on the riverbank, something even sneakier. These small ground robots, no bigger than a backpack, just crawling through the reeds, mapping out firing points, bunkers, everything, sending coordinates back in real time. Suddenly, Ukrainian command could see every machine gun nest, every bit of wire.
Yeah, and the clever part of this first phase, these eyes in the sky, was their dual role. Some FPVs had small charges, sure, but many were unarmed, purely reconnaissance. Their job wasn't blowing things up. Not yet, anyway. It was revelation, mapping the defenses. They were specifically looking for sort of the hidden wiring of the minefield, and crucially, trying to pinpoint those TM-62 anti-tank mines they suspected were under the bridge. The Russians naturally reacted. You heard tracer fire rip through the air from a PKM machine gun. Standard Russian MG, right? Took down one drone. Anti-drone nets deployed two, trying to shield the bridge.
Right, so the Russians are shooting down what they think are attack drones. But Ukraine planned for this. And here's where the deception gets really clever. One drone, a decoy, deliberately pushes forward, makes a lot of noise, just zooms ahead, basically screaming, "Shoot me!" And the PKM gunner takes the bait. The gun rattles again, chewing through that decoy drone, sparks flying in the pre-dawn light. It's like a chess move, isn't it? Sacrificing a piece.
Exactly like a chess move, a calculated sacrifice. And behind it, the real swarm, the unarmed recon drones, they kept going. They slipped right under the firing arcs, now focused on that decoy. Their feeds, even if low res because of jamming, they still showed the vital stuff. The minefield layout and confirmation, the exact spots where those TM-62s were hidden under the bridge. That was huge for Ukrainian command. They suddenly had this incredibly detailed map of the enemy's setup. So the question became, okay, how do we use this knowledge? How do we turn it into an overwhelming advantage?
And they didn't wait long for the answer. With that map laid bare, they saw the cap.
Yeah.
Phase 1 recon and deception complete. The battlefield was set for the next stage. So battlefield mapped. What was the next move? Because this is where things really seem to escalate, right?
Absolutely. The moment those Russian PKM gunners were busy reloading after hitting the decoy, Ukrainian command seized the opening. No hesitation. 12 miles west, a HIMARS battery, that's the high mobility artillery rocket system, the really precise GPS guided ones, it just roared to life. 4 rockets launched almost simultaneously, streaking up, then diving down with pinpoint accuracy, arsing right over the trees, hitting targets they'd already identified from that earlier recon. The first one slammed into a Zu-23 anti-aircraft gun emplacement, gone. The second took out a short-range missile launcher hidden under netting.
And the third and fourth. They ripped open bunkers on the north bank, silencing the very machine guns that were firing just minutes before. But it wasn't just HIMARS, was it? There was air power, too. High up, a pair of Su-27 fighters, big, fast interceptors came screaming in, and they launched KH-31P anti-radar missiles. Those things are designed specifically to hunt radar signals, right? Supersonic speed.
Precisely. And this is where the electronic warfare piece gets critical. The Russian EW crews, they detect these missiles coming for them. Panic sets in. They start flicking their radar on and off, trying desperately to break the lock, but every time they switch off, they accidentally weaken their own jamming cover. It creates these little cracks in the electronic shield protecting the bridge. You see, it shows the sophisticated way of forcing the enemy's hand, turning their defense into a vulnerability. It's not just what you hit, but how you make them expose themselves.
And that vulnerability led to the third punch, the one that really cemented the electronic blindness. Out of nowhere, this kamikaze UAV, an unmanned drone, but big, like a small car, dives down its target, a Russian jammer truck. And not just any jammer, the notorious RB341VT Lear 3. A really sophisticated piece of kit, hidden about 200 yards back in the woods. The drone's camera locks on, and bam! Huge explosion ripped through the trees, flips the truck right over, its signal just dies, instantly.
And the result was just staggering, efficient. In less than 5 minutes, Russia's whole layered defense system just unraveled. Machine guns quiet, radars blind, main jammer destroyed. The bridge itself was still standing, physically, but its shield, its eyes and ears, completely gone. Ukraine had cleared the air, electronically opened the door for whatever came next. A total masterclass in gaining superiority before the main event.
Okay, so Russia's electronic shield is down, smoke still rising from that destroyed jammer truck. What happens next? The ground assault must have followed pretty quickly.
Immediately, no pause. From behind cover, Ukrainian T-84 main battle tanks, these are their more advanced tanks, engines roared, and they charged across the open ground. Dust kicking up everywhere. BTR-4 infantry carriers, the armored personnel carriers, right behind them, dropping off squads, soldiers with rifles, grenade launchers, satchel charges. The noise must have been intense. But what was really interesting, really innovative, was that it wasn't just heavy armor rolling in.
Yeah, I read about this bit. The motorbikes. Infantry on motorbikes, weaving between craters at 45 miles an hour? Sounds incredibly dangerous, but incredibly fast, too. What was their job?
Speed was absolutely their weapon. Their mission was very specific. Get to the flanks fast, lay down anti-tank mines, basically choke off any Russian counterattack before it could even properly form, cut off reinforcement routes. Each rider had demolition packs ready to go. It was about creating this pincer, disrupting the Russian response. The Russians naturally tried to react. T-72 tanks, the older Soviet-era ones, started rolling out from the southern tree line, firing as they came. The first shell screamed over, hit a dirt berm near one of the BTRs, kicked up a lot of mud.
Okay, so Russian tanks are now in the fight. That's a serious threat. How did Ukraine deal with that right there on the spot?
Again, the answer came from the air. Shows how integrated this whole thing was. An FPV suicide drone dove straight down, right onto the turret of the late T-72. The explosion was massive, ripped the hatch off, huge flames erupted as the ammo inside started cooking off. And just like that, the burning T-72 became an obstacle. It blocked the bridge approach. The other Russian tanks had to swerve. Their attacks stalled.
Wow. So they took out the lead tank, blocking the others. And in that moment, Ukrainian sappers moved up.
Exactly. Under covering fire, they deployed these little mine-clearing robots onto the bridge embankments. Small tracked things inching forward, scanning for tripwires, pressure plates. Everything they found was relayed back, detonation points marked precisely. So the battlefield is now just this chaotic mix of fire, armor, infantry moving up. The bridge is right there. Ukraine has the momentum. But the main goal, destroying the crossing itself, that was still ahead.
Right. The stage is set for the final act. That T-72 is still burning at the bridgehead. Engineers are moving in, smoke providing some cover. And those little ground robots are crawling along the concrete supports, scanning the underside of the bridge.
And then they find it. Operators see thick detonation wires leading to a whole chain of TM-62 anti-tank mines hidden right under the bridge span. This discovery leads to this incredibly bold decision. Instead of trying to disarm them or bring in their own explosives, they decide, Let's use the Russians' own trap against them. The order comes down. Bring in the vampire.
The Vampire, that's quite a name. What was special about this particular FPV drone?
The Vampire is known for being agile, carrying a decent payload, good for precision strikes and tricky spots. So for this job, they dropped it low, way upriver, out of sight initially. Then it comes skimming, maybe 15 feet off the water. Its camera is locked onto the bridge's underbelly. The pilot has to be incredibly skilled, guiding it between the steel girders. Russian MGs are firing, yeah, but the drone is too low, hugging the structure, almost invisible from their angles.
So it gets right up close. The ground robot's feed confirms the target one of the TM62 pressure plates, wired into the whole chain. The Vampire nudges forward, its shaped charge presses right against the mine's trigger, and
Then the charge ignites, the blast, instantaneous, catastrophic. One mine goes off, triggers the next, and then the entire chain, 30 TM62s, detonates in this cascading roar. That's like, what, nearly 8 tons of TNT equivalent? The shockwave just lifts the bridge deck like it's nothing, shatters the 2 central spans, completing a concrete rebar just disintegrating in this massive fireball. Water sheets up from the river, maybe 120 feet high, a huge geyser. Then it all rains back down. The whole valley shakes. When the dust finally starts to settle, the bridge is just gone.
ripped apart using its own demolition charges. Unbelievable. But even as the sound of the bridge collapsing is still echoing, the Russians respond, right? Artillery fire starts coming in.
Yep, from hidden positions on the far bank, 122mm howitzers, standard-towed guns, they open up. Shells start landing near the Ukrainian positions. But Ukraine was ready for this too. They anticipated the counter-battery fire.
How do they handle that?
Another drone, this one called a Shrike, much bigger, almost the size of a small plane. A kamikaze drone. It banks, dives down, its camera locking onto the muzzle flashes from a couple of D-30 howitzers hidden under camo nets. It hits the first gun, massive explosion tears it apart. Then the second one, moments later, crew scatters, Russian artillery is silenced. With that threat gone, the ground troops pushed forward to secure the area fully.
So the Ukrainian infantry moves in now,
Yeah.
clearing out remaining resistance.
Exactly. Squads jump out of the BTRs, advance under fire, storm the last machine gun nests near the river, grenades into bunkers, short bursts of rifle fire. Pretty quickly, those strong points fall. And there was this quite striking human moment amidst it all. Several Russian soldiers, wounded, dazed, they just dropped their weapons. Ukrainian troops actually pulled them out alive.
Wow. Meanwhile, what's happening with the bigger picture? Were there reinforcements coming?
Intelligence drones picked up exactly that. A Russian fuel convoy about 12 kilometers out, heading straight for the crossing. Tankers, ammo trucks, totally unaware the bridge didn't exist anymore. As soon as word got back to their command, the order was immediate. Abort mission. You could probably imagine the chaos, trucks screeching, turning around, retreating onto back roads. So the immediate battlefield was secure. But the longer-term impact was just starting.
And those long-term implications sound huge. What happened right after the bridge demolition to solidify the game?
Engineers moved in straight away, started laying anti-tank mines on all the approach roads, the dirt tracks, making sure any counterattack would hit a wall of explosives. And way overhead, long-range recon drones just kept circling, maybe 10,000 feet up, tracking that retreating fuel convoy deep into Russian-held areas. Every move logged. Analysts back at HQ reviewed the drone footage, confirmed what was obvious on the ground. The Nezgol bridge was finished. There was this huge chunk of reinforced concrete, maybe 40 tons, stuck in the riverbed. No quick repairs possible, maybe no repairs ever. So for you listening, what does this actually mean strategically?
Yeah, what's the real takeaway here?
It really highlights the ripple effect, the cascading consequences of one precise strike. Moscow's supply line wasn't just disrupted, it was severed, for good, potentially. That convoy, and any future ones, now had to take routes that were over 50 miles longer. Think about that. It's not just time. It's way more fuel used, more wear on the vehicles. And critically, those longer routes, they were already within range of other Ukrainian precision weapons, much more vulnerable. So this wasn't just knocking down a bridge, it was applying a strategic chokehold. It directly hits troop readiness, supply flow, the whole tempo of their operations in that area.
It's incredible. This whole operation, watched by drones, heading home with the footage, it just shows how modern war can be fought, maybe won with speed, with smarts, with economy of force. It's a real testament to integrating everything, isn't it? From tiny FPV drones right up to HIMARS rockets, all working together for one clear goal.
The battlefield is changing so fast. It demands that kind of innovative thinking, that integration, much more than just brute force sometimes. This deep dive really shows how actions that might seem small, if they're coordinated, if they leverage good intel and hit vulnerabilities, they can have absolutely massive strategic effects. Effects on logistics, morale, the whole campaign. It's adaptation in action.
Absolutely stunning. From that first decoy drone, through the blinding air attack, the fast ground moves, using their own minds against them to drop the bridge. And then the logistical chaos that followed. Just an extraordinary example of modern strategy. And it leaves you, our listener, with something to think about, perhaps. How often do we just hear about the big bangs, the explosions, when maybe the real genius, the real turning points in modern conflict lie in these invisible chess moves, the planning, the deception, the things that happen before the decisive moment? What other unseen strategies might be playing out right now, shaping events in ways we don't immediately see? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.